Thanks for joining us in our 6 a.m. hour. I'm Eric Connert.
And I'm Vanessa Paz. Let's go ahead and toss it over to Evan Narani with a look at your forecast on this Friday Eve, Thursday morning.
Yeah.
It's been comfortable. It was a little warm last night, I must say.
It was
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah.
Today's going to be our warmest day of the week.
Okay.
Tomorrow will carry over a lot of the warmth. And then Saturday and Sunday will start to
We can
mellow
handle
out.
that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll be fine. I mean, hey, it is summer after all. Meteorological summer, you could say.
We'll be
Summer
fine for
solstice
sure.
coming.
We'll be fine.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I mean, the closer you are to the coastline, the more comfortable things are going to be. Notice that in La Jolla, PB, you're wondering what the fuss is. 60s for the most part. But in Santee and El Cajon, 81 is that forecast high. Same goes for the North County coastline with upper 60s and low 70s. And then you get out to Ramona. And the farther east you go, you're at 84 degrees toward Ramona. You get even hotter out toward Campo at 90. And then Borrego Springs and Ocotillo Wells could be around 108 degrees this afternoon, about 10 degrees warmer than average. Coming up, we'll talk about a little bit of fog that's been creeping in for the morning stretch and what to expect into the weekend and next week. Back to you.
Thank you, Evan. This morning, people living across the South Bay are having to deal with stronger odors in the area.
And that's because a sewage line collapsed in Mexico earlier this week. We've been telling you about this. News 8's Tori Apodaca live in Imperial Beach with some of the precautions that people now have to take. They don't want to get sick there, Tori.
That's exactly right. I can tell you right now here in Imperial Beach, it doesn't smell all too bad, but we have heard that it's a bit worse down by the border. Some schools aren't even letting their students outside during the day to just be safe.
Teacher got a call during class and apparently she said, okay guys, we can't go outside, and everyone is freaking out like, what, why? Like, why can't we go outside? And for safety precautions, they're making us stay inside so that we don't breathe anything bad.
The kids smelling it in and breathing it in, and then if they're outside and they're taking in all that smell, like, I'm pretty sure it's going to affect them some way badly.
Now, the most recent pipeline break in Tijuana elevated the level of hydrogen sulfide in the air in the South Bay. The federal guideline for this emission exposure is 360 parts per billion. The South Bay hit 915 parts per billion on Tuesday. Environmental Protection Agency officials say that emissions this high can cause notable discomfort, irritation, or certain asymptomatic non-sensory effects. However, the effects are not disabling, instead transient and reversible once that exposure ends. The families, though, who live here have been dealing with smelly air and days stuck inside for years now, but this is really on another level for some of them. Crews, though, are working on that pipeline, and it is expected to be complete with those repairs by the end of this week. Reporting live from Imperial Beach, Tori Apodaca, News 8.
Thank you for that, Tori. This morning, an 18-year-old is dead after a shooting outside of a high school graduation in Fairfield. That's about an hour south of Sacramento. 3 others are hurt, including an 11-year-old. This happened in the school's parking lot late last night after the ceremony ended. Police haven't provided much information on the suspect or what led up to the shooting. An Escondido police officer is set to appear in court today in connection to a deadly crash last August. 36-year-old Jason Inco is facing 1 count of misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter in the death of Jacob Ilian. The exact details of the crash have not been released, but Escondido police were involved in a pursuit of a man riding an electric motorcycle on that date that ended with a rider dying in a crash. Inco is currently on paid administrative leave and faces up to a year in jail if convicted. A man accused of killing the daughter of his landlord is expected to be arraigned today. Police say 41-year-old Robert Watkins had been involved in a dispute with a woman who owned the home that he was renting in Chula Vista. Last week, the daughter of the home's owner went to talk to Watkins to try to address the problem, but was never heard from again. Police say Watkins confessed to killing the woman, whose body was later discovered in a suitcase at a nearby park.
This morning, a man accused of murdering a pregnant teenager, Jariah Edwards, is facing first-degree murder charges. 21-year-old Trevon Williams is pleading not guilty on multiple counts, including attempted murder of a fetus. Prosecutors say Williams took a lift from Arizona to San Diego, where Edwards and her family were staying in an Airbnb. He allegedly used a DoorDash order to lure Edwards outside, then shot her in the head Saturday morning, according to authorities. Edwards was in the process of getting a restraining order against Williams, who had raised concerns with her family.
On and off relationship filled with domestic violence and threats of violence on the victim and her unborn baby by the defendant.
Doctors delivered Edwards' baby by emergency C-section. She remains in critical condition. If the baby dies, Williams may face another murder charge. Also, this update this morning, a judge has ruled that county public health officers can inspect the Otay Mesa Detention Center. It must happen by June 17th. This began earlier this year when the county says they received complaints about poor conditions. The county then sued Homeland Security and Core Civic, which operates the facility, after inspectors were not allowed inside in February. The county's chief medical officer briefly got in, but was not allowed to speak with detainees. Well, the county registrar of voters will be releasing the next batch of election results today. Let's take a look at where some of the major races stand right now. Republican Steve Hilton continues to hold a narrow edge over Democrat Javier Becerra in the race for governor, with Tom Steyer in third. Here's the numbers. The top two advance to the election in November. The AP projects Jim Desmond and Marty Von Wilpert will advance to the November runoff in the newly redrawn 48th district. And in the city of San Diego, Measure A, which would tax homes left unoccupied for more than half the year, seems headed for a loss. Again, we can expect updated results from our state's primary election here today.
Over the last 24 hours, election workers have been busy counting and verifying ballots. News 8's Chris Groh is live at the Registrar of Voters in Kearney Mesa to explain what we can expect, when we can expect, rather, another update. Hey, Chris.
Good morning, guys. Again, so often after that first batch of votes are released, the vote counts at 8 p.m. on Election Day, we hear from so many people. When will we be getting new updates? They click that refresh button a ton, wondering. Well, the Registrar of Voters says that this afternoon, sometime around 6 p.m., is when that next batch is going to be released. Now, the second most popular question that we get is then, why are we waiting so long? Well, a big part of this is that those votes that are released right at about 8 p.m. of Election Day, if it's a primary, if it's the actual general, those are often all of those mail-in ballots that were returned with enough time to have been counted and also have signatures verified and so forth. So those essentially have those ready to go. They're released. And then all of those mail-in ballots that are either dropped off or actually mailed in, that are cast in person, those ballots, those start to get counted. They sort of do go towards the update. But then 6 p.m. tonight is when we expect to see a lot of those other mail-in ballots, once those signatures have been verified, actually get to be released. Now, more than 500,000 votes have been counted so far, another 375,000 to go. We spoke to the Registrar of Voters, Sean Brom, asked him about some of those questions about protocols for counting votes and so forth. One of the other questions that we get a ton is, what happens if you're hearing this story and you just realize, I forgot to sign my envelope? Are you out of luck? He says this will happen.
As we notice that the mail ballot does not have the signature, within 24 hours, that notice is out to the voter, allowing them to have time to respond to us and get that ballot cured.
Yeah, and they do have until July 2nd to go ahead and certify the election results. So they do have a deadline for which they try to get all of this done by. Back to you guys in studio.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Busy election workers here still.
Yeah, a little bit of gloom out there this morning to start off your
June living up to the name.
Yeah.
Right by the coast and inland, exactly. Very June of us to be seeing those clouds, but they are helping to keep the coastline and some of our inland valleys, at least our western valleys, a little bit more comfortable in the morning stretch and even in the afternoon. The afternoon, coastal temperatures are mostly in the upper 60s and low 70s. A big change from what we see the farther east you are, where temperatures could be upwards of 80, 90, and even triple-digit heat out across our local deserts. Live look outside at Booker Hill, facing west toward the coastline, where we've got that blanket layer of gray, but you can also make out that above those clouds, that sun has started to come up. It's on the opposite side, of course, but giving us some of those orange and yellow hues beaming through. By the afternoon, 10 to 5, we're going to be watching for some warm temperatures, especially out toward our local mountains and deserts. The impact is going to be that we've got hot conditions, dry conditions, and high UV exposure. You should be ideally limiting the amount of time you're spending outside, staying hydrated, taking frequent breaks applying sunscreen, especially out in Borrego Springs and Ocotillo Wells, where our afternoon high could be around 108 degrees this afternoon. Campo's going for 90, so nothing to joke around with that high heat. But the closer you are to the coast and inland, the more relief you have, the less intense that heat is going to be, and the more you can spend that time outside all day if you'd like. I'd still recommend, though, that you're staying hydrated, that you're taking breaks if needed, and that please you're applying that sunscreen. Otherwise, you will be getting that burn. Wind gusts are going to be picking up to about the upper 30-mile-per-hour range in Borrego Springs, 38 miles per hour it seems. Along the coast and inland, pretty mellow, mostly around the teens. Tomorrow afternoon, we get a little bit more intense toward the mountains and deserts. That's why fire crews are trying to gain the upper hand right now, and they are doing a very good job of it out toward that Border 6 fire. Temperatures from today through Sunday cool down day over day. It's not all that noticeable out along the coast, but toward our inland valleys, the mountains, the deserts, they could all simmer down by about 10 degrees max. Closer to our inland valleys, it's going to be about 5 degrees of cooling through Sunday. Let's check it on traffic. 6:10 right now. So far, the roads are pretty quiet. We had one incident. It was a brush fire that was reported on the right shoulder of basically the underpass in Old Town on the 5 southbound. CHP has now cleared that. They said that there was just open flame on the overpass. But again, that has been cleared and there's no smoke in the area. We do still have CHP on scene, but this accident has been cleared in Carmel Valley on the 5 northbound, right before Carmel Valley Road. This is a live look at the northbound 5 just north of Old Town Avenue. Again, things are looking pretty smooth in both directions. Let's check in on your border wait times. It's a 135-minute wait, going to take you a while, about over 2 hours at the San Ysidro Port of Entry. Otay Mesa Port of Entry should be able to get across a little bit quicker, about 90 minutes in total.